All right, here we go. This
Let's
is the
go.
moment we've been waiting for. It is The Mandalorian Season 2.5, Episode 1, The Return of the Mandalorian. Actually, it's the Book of Boba Fett, Episode 5, but you wouldn't know that.
No.
Because this, and by the way, spoiler warning, this is going to be a full spoiler review.
Spoiler
If you
warning,
have
spoilers
not,
are coming.
yes, if you have not watched it, go watch it and then come back. And wow, yeah, I mean, Book of Boba Fett, but it's really The Mandalorian, and we really only it isn't until the end of this episode that we really even remember that it's a
And
Book of
even
Boba
then,
Fett
I
episode.
don't know.
Yeah, and even, but that doesn't mean that that's a negative thing. I mean,
No.
let's just give our overall thoughts first
Yeah.
of all of this triumphant return.
I mean, it's kind of odd that the best show of any particular show would not feature the show's title character.
Yeah.
But that's very much what happened here. It's not even an overshadowing. It's Mando just took it over. I mean, this was Mando's show.
Mm-hmm.
Boba Fett literally got zero screen time, unless you count
Yeah.
the catch you up at the beginning thing. Other than that, zero screen time. Fennec Shand had more screen time than Boba Fett did in this episode, which is crazy. I was trying to think, and I was talking, I think, in Discord with some of our friends there. Has any show done that before? And I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything.
Yeah, because I mean, sometimes there's those shows that have an ensemble cast that maybe focuses on one character in that particular episode, but I don't know if we've ever had a series or anything where the title character in this series is about one character really.
It's
and
the
that
book
character
of
not be
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett. Yeah.
Like I was thinking, like I don't like Grey's Anatomy. I know my wife watches that. I don't know if Meredith Grey has ever had an episode where she didn't appear.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question.
It's not common. We'll put it that way.
Right.
And for me, it's kind of telling about the show overall that happened. And I don't know if it's just the fact that Mando's as popular as he was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Boba Fett was maybe just more popular with the the diehard Star Wars fans.
Mm-hmm.
Mando kind of transcended that, I think, so maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah.
But for me, this episode really solidified the idea that they never should have taken a year off of Mando. And now I know that some things probably facilitated the need for that to happen. Speaking, just talking about the Gina Carano stuff.
Yeah.
But really, that was the show that we should be watching right now, I think. And as I was thinking about it more, I think Boba Fett should really have been kind of a, maybe a 2-episode special, or maybe they should have just done that movie they've been talking about forever, and then had it be a Disney Plus exclusive movie. Because they're apparently not afraid to drop movies on Disney Plus like they do to Pixar all the time. So,
yeah.
That's kind of what I think this episode meant to me. I loved this episode, and it's weird because that's kind of the problem, like I loved it so much, and it was because it was a Mando episode, more than it was a Boba episode. So,
yeah, I feel the same way. I think, and I'm wondering how much of Boba Fett was. We know we had that movie that was possibly going to happen with Josh Trank behind it and everything. And then there were rumors of other people being involved. I wonder how much of that story they took and tried to weave into the Mandalorian timeline and universe, and or if they just started completely again from scratch. I don't know, but either way, I think it's been hard for Boba Fett to really find its footing, at least
I agree.
for me.
Yeah.
And I'm not by any means saying that the Book of Boba Fett is a bad show, because it's not. I
It's not.
actually think it's a good
Yeah,
show, that I've enjoyed. But as soon as Mando showed up, I got the feels. I was like, oh,
yeah,
this is the story I want. These are the
yeah,
characters and story that I'm interested in, and this Mandalorian lore, and Din Djarin, and the possibility of seeing Grogu again. Like, just I was so excited again for Star Wars just watching this one episode. Um,
yeah.
so I feel like it might be my favorite episode of live action Star Wars.
Wow.
Period. And I remember seeing somebody on Twitter be like, saying like, I don't get all the love for this episode. It was basically about them putting a starfighter together for the most part. But there was just
There was a lot
I'm
more
gonna
to it than that. I mean,
there's
it
a lot more
was
to it than
yeah,
that, and
yeah,
I'm gonna explain, throughout this segment, why I love it so much, this episode.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was pretty much blown away by it
Yeah.
for
And I
multiple
mean,
reasons.
it really kind of goes back to Mando like we saw him in the very first episode of Mandalorian,
Yeah, he's back to like
So
being a
he's
bounty hunter.
and yeah, kind of and he's doing it
He
really
has a
without a
specific
ship,
purpose for
and he's kind of
yeah,
he's
yeah.
taking public transit to do it.
Uh-huh.
But he's kind of back to that phase of his life more or less. We see it at the beginning. I think out of necessity. I think he's tracking down
hmm
uh, the armor, more or less.
Yeah.
So he's kind of doing it. I don't know if that's if he's back to that job full time now. That's one question I have about the N1 that we see later. Uh,
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
the
because how would
practicality of
he
that. He's used to carrying all these slabs of carbonite with him,
yeah.
and it
Yeah.
fits in something like the Razor Crest. It doesn't fit in an N1,
hmm
unless he's like towing them behind, like I saw someone say. So,
or maybe he's just gonna take them all back cold with just their heads in the droid compartment.
well,
Um
I was texting a friend. I said maybe he'll just strap him to the outside wings and he'll take him back real cold, like
yeah,
frozen from
real cold.
space.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Um so yeah,
which
that's
wouldn't
a good
work if
point.
it was Leia. She'd be okay.
You're right. Leia would be fine.
Sorry.
Yeah, anyway, I had a feeling that was coming. Um, but I guess my first question is, has the question is, I guess, has Mando changed since we last saw him? Um, and
Um,
how?
I- maybe a little bit, but like I
hmm
said, he's kind of back to what he's been doing. He's going back to get direction from the armor. I think he's definitely grown. Beyond just kind of the bounty hunter that we saw in the first season, first episode. But I don't. But he's kind of fallen back into the same stuff that he did before. Albeit with maybe different motives.
Yeah. Um, I tell you what, he was slicing some people up with the
Yeah,
dark saber.
yeah.
You know, there and that's not, I guess, too different from where we first saw him in episode 1 of The Mandalorian. I mean,
But
he was pretty
he was
brutal
using
at that
doors
point,
back
but
then.
yeah, he was using doors to cut people up instead of the dark saber.
So
Um,
he has gotten a little bit more fancy since that. So
yes,
that dark
yes.
saber
So,
was pretty cool. Seeing that thing in action,
hmm
the way we did, it's kind of brutal action. Um,
yeah,
like you said, cutting people up, and even to the point where he's carrying around a guy's head in a bag.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
So
So
this was
I
not
don't know if
short on visuals. We'll say that.
uh-huh. Yeah, and you know, like I loved how, at the end of last episode we were pretty sure that, like, okay, they're playing the Mando music, they're gonna be so foolish if we don't get to see Mando.
Yeah,
Right off the bat, right from the
didn't
get-go.
wait. Yeah,
He Yeah, he steps through there, which was exciting, and I'm glad they did that. And the world that he's on, and I'm not sure if it is some type of ring planet or some type of space station or something
kind
like
of have
that.
that space station feel. Yeah,
It does, but I tell you what, I really loved it.
Yeah.
It was different, it was unique. Talk about world building, and we've been spending a lot of time on the sands of
Tatooine, yeah.
Tatooine, so
Yeah.
this was a fresh um, take and a fresh break from all of that. I thought, and it felt like Star Wars, really, because
Mhm.
just seeing space all around the characters and in the background and everything, and I thought the music was great too in those scenes, and um, I just really enjoyed
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
location.
I wasn't too wild on the aliens. I don't know. The design didn't look terribly interesting. They just kind of looked like bulldogs.
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah, I can see that.
but I mean, everything else around that I thought was pretty good. The whole butcher shop thing I thought was a little strange,
Hmm.
but it fit. I think it did fit the story. It wasn't something I was expecting to see, which is fine. It's good. So
Yeah,
it did
and
make
and
it
at the
made it fun.
same time, it I guess it makes sense that
Yeah,
there would
sure.
be something like that in
Hmm.
in this universe, and it
Absolutely.
didn't feel like it was too out of the realm of Star Wars,
Nope, I agree.
but yeah.
Yep.
So I thought that was cool. And then
But
when we get a little bit of, did you want
no, I was
to
just
say
gonna
something
go.
else about
Well,
that?
not really. I was just gonna go back to the dark saber thing, which I think that's where
Yeah.
you're heading next.
Yeah, that's kind of our next point here is um his struggles with the dark saber. And whether or not we notice that same struggle with Moff Gideon, or
I
what is the
yeah, that's
deal
a good.
here
I don't know what
with
the
that?
deal is. Yeah, that's a good question. There's some interesting lore there. And
Mhm.
right off the bat, we see him kind of, chop up his own leg a little bit, kind of
Yeah.
burn himself.
Yeah.
Um, I'll be
Yeah,
honest.
he's
At,
kind
at
of
that point, I
messy with that
thought
thing.
I thought he was gonna have to get into the flashback to Tank. We are gonna get some of his story, but that didn't happen. Uh,
No, no. They had a portable spray
yeah,
backup.
yeah, yeah. But it's interesting how the armor explained that. That it gets help me a little bit on this. That it gets heavier, uh, almost as you're fighting it.
Yeah, he's kind of fighting it, or instead of like, I guess I kind of view it as instead of being one with the blade, he's almost just trying to use his own strength to
Forcing
swing
it,
it around,
yielding it,
and
yeah.
yeah, and it's almost like because Tar Vizsla, um, he was Mandalorian and Jedi, and
Hmm.
created the dark
Very
saber.
cool that we got a
Um,
mention of him, by the way.
yeah, yeah. Um, and it's almost like you need some type to tap into the force to
I
be able to
don't
wield this
think,
thing
Matt.
correctly, you know
I
what I
don't
mean?
think that's. I don't think that's it because
Mhm.
I mean, you look at the ones that we've seen use it, like the Vizslas, and which I mean, you maybe argue that they have some type of family strength there.
Yeah.
But then you have the you have Bo-Katan and
Mhm.
um, Sabine. I don't know that Sabine. We could say that maybe
I mean, she was trained by
right,
um Kanan
right.
to use it, correct?
But would you say that she was force sensitive? I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe not.
I think it goes back to what you said before. It's almost being one with it
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
believing in your use of it.
Yeah.
Um, I would definitely say that Moff Gideon didn't have that problem.
Mhm.
But I think he had
Yeah,
I
I
think
feel
he
like I
had the
need to go back
conviction
and
would be a good word. I think he had the conviction to use it.
right. I want to go back and watch that duel between Moff Gideon and Mando, and see if it looked like it was kind of had some more weight to it, or if it was heavy for him, or if he
See,
was struggling with it
I
at
was
all.
trying
But
to think because I
yeah,
don't think I've ever seen something like that where it felt heavier to someone, and he's
hmm,
wielding it like it's like 100 pounds.
I was watching something, and it might have been the Resistance broadcast where I think one of them had mentioned, um, when Sabine was using it and she was getting trained and everything. She said it started to feel lighter, possibly. Um,
Oh,
so I thought that was interesting too. I can't confirm that for sure, um, but
it's
yeah. So
interesting. if that's where that idea came from, I don't know if I like I don't know if I really like flipping it on its head that extreme, you know. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's interesting.
I do
I'll
like that
give it
we
a
got
chance.
some
I'll
more
give it a chance.
lore,
Yeah.
behind
Oh my gosh, the lore
the
in this
dark
episode
saber and
was
everything.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Um, and so, speaking of that lore, and the armorer talks about the was it the Night of a Thousand
Night of a
Tears?
Thousand Tears.
That
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, the Great Purge
Right.
and all
Right.
that, and we get into all that thing, and um so and we see like they are, they're the followers of the way,
Yeah.
and
Right.
they're very strict when it comes to wearing the helmet and their vows and everything. um and then we see Mando has spent some time obviously with Bo-Katan in kind of a different way
Hmm.
of being a Mandalorian, and maybe he's, I wonder if there's gonna, what are the implications of this? Um,
Yeah.
is there gonna be still a battle going on between the Mandalorians? Is Mando gonna be the bridge? Because he's been kind of on both sides of that. Um, I guess what do you think are the implications of what happened there at the new covert?
I think that kind of sets up Mando season 3,
Mm-hmm.
basically, and I think that what honestly I don't know about the bridge thing, but I what I feel comes out of that is that Mando wants to restore those waters to kind of um, redeem himself in the way. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's kind of where that's going. In my head, anyway. I think that we kind of see because it sounds like there's not much left of Mandalore to fight for. The way that
Right.
the armor kind of tells the story there. Sounds like
By
there's
the
not
way, it was
much.
awesome to get an actual like live
That
action
whole thing
look
was
at
incredible.
Mandalore and everything.
That
That was
whole
awesome.
thing was amazing.
Yeah.
So kind of at
That's
the
how
end
you do
of
flashbacks right there.
yeah, right. So kind of at the end of season 2 of Mandalorian, it kind of felt like we were kind of going back to fight for Mandalore.
Mhm.
But I don't know that that's the kind of the way that that's playing out now. I think that maybe there's like a reclaiming of Mandalore, maybe a rebuilding, and I think that rebuilding those underground waters is kind of the catalyst that gets Mando wanting to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's certainly two opposing
No,
philosophies going
absolutely.
into that and
Yeah.
everything. I think that'll play a role for
'Cause
sure.
I think
Um
that way for him means something. I think it's going to be
yeah.
hard for him to step away from, even though he's kind of done it already. I do
Mhm.
have to say that whole line of questioning about removing the helmet was felt a little weird that it happened right
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I think that that's still very important to him, and I don't think that he just leaves that aside. I think that he wants to find a way to get back to that.
That could be. I guess I was leaning more towards the armor and the way. Are they going to be maybe
Or are they
end up
going to be
being a
changed? I see.
villain? Are they going to be the problem?
Oh,
Like
I see. Okay,
the
okay.
the villain that kind of gets in the way of
The way.
um of what they're trying, of what like Bo-Katan wants to do and everything.
Yeah,
So that could be interesting to see how that plays out. But um,
absolutely.
did you have any more thoughts on that whole meeting and everything that went down there? And I mean, of course, there was that attempt by is it it's a Vizsla that fights him for the dark saber, and is it
I think it's
Paz or
Paz
something?
Vizsla. Yeah.
Paz Vizsla. And I keep wondering if that's Jon Favreau's voice
Oh, yeah.
or
It's definitely yes.
yeah, because it sounds a lot like him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Jon Favreau. He also played Pre Vizsla in the Clone Wars, so he's
Yeah, I mean,
playing
I guess
Paz
if
in
it would
this.
make sense that he would have a similar voice.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff with that Mandalorian lore. I'm really invested in that stuff and curious about how it's going to play out in season 3.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, I think a lot of people
eh,
are. I know. We remember we had Jess from Darksaber Light on, and she's huge into this. I think she just about had a heart attack with all this stuff.
Oh, I'm
Seeing
sure.
the stuff that she was writing on Twitter, it was really fun to see her have so much
Yeah,
fun with this.
yeah, and and then we get this scene where Mando has to travel. He doesn't have a ship, obviously, so
Mm-hmm.
he's doing public transportation on what looks like the Galactic Star Cruiser that's going to be in Disney or something like that. Um, Maybe they're trying to push that. I don't know. But he has this issue where he has to check his weapons, and I seriously
Well, you know
thought
what? That's a good
like
question. It actually,
something
is
was going
that
to
one of
happen with
those?
that, you know.
Is that one of those? I wonder if that's one of those things from Star Tours though, because I mean Rex was one of the Rex droids was driving.
Could be, yeah, could be some reference to that. Um, but I thought it was a funny little scene we got where and it's like, oh no, he's putting the dark saber like in this suitcase type thing or whatever it was in this, and like
Yeah,
I thought he's gonna lose something. Something's gonna happen, but luckily he got all his stuff and he got to his destination.
yeah, indeed. I don't think it's one of the Star Speeders, by the way, but
Okay.
that would have been cool.
Uh, yeah. But then we're back on Tatooine, and
Mm-hmm.
we get some more Pelimato,
Yeah.
and
By the way, she faked me out. I was 100% thought that was going to be Cal Kestis. For about
yeah,
a second and a half, I was like, "Oh boy, here we go."
yeah, that was so awesome that we got a
A
BD droid
BD
in there,
droid, yeah.
um, from Fallen Order, and I I gotta say, like, I've always liked this character, but I never really like loved this character. But this episode, I thought she was at her best in this
Very
episode.
funny.
Um, yeah, and they utilized her character very well, I thought. And I
Yeah,
really enjoyed all the stuff that happened there with the rebuilding of the Naboo N1 starfighter. Um,
right.
which was very cool. So what were your thoughts on Pelimato and this whole rebuilding
Yeah,
process?
I thought it was fun. I got a little bit lost with the jargon, but I think that I think that actually kind of helped a little bit.
Yeah.
Make it feel a little bit more real. But some of it was kind of wild. uh,
Hmm.
but it was also funny. So I mean, that's not a complaint at all. But I have some questions, like I said before, about him using the N1 starfighter for bounty hunting specifically. I mean, it's fine for
Yeah.
like a transport ship. Luke used an X-wing all the time. I mean, so that's not a big deal. But for a bounty hunter, I don't know that is practical. But we'll see how that works out. Maybe he's not really doing that work anymore. You know, maybe
Right.
since the whole thing with Grogu and meeting up with Grief Karga, maybe that has kind of taken him out of that work. Maybe the stuff that he was doing in the beginning was solely to get back to the armor,
Hmm.
to get that information to get him back there. So maybe that's not really what he's looking to do going forward.
Yeah,
And
that could be.
I could understand that. That's the only question I have really about it. But it was really cool to see the N1 again.
It was awesome seeing that. And there's a lot of Easter eggs in this episode we're gonna get into in just a little bit. But I thought it was just so cool, this whole thing, the way that they put this thing together and made some modifications, and then he went out and took it for a test run, and he goes through kind of that pod racing course almost, and
Mm-hmm.
goes through. I think it was Beggar's Canyon. Is that right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well. Um. Yeah, I think so. But
Possibly, yeah.
I don't know if you heard they were also using some of those sound effects too.
Right. Yeah, there were like some pod racing sound effects.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, and then he goes out into space, and he has that run in with some more X-wing pilots and the familiar one that he keeps running into, and
Yeah.
um, I thought that stuff was all really really cool.
Absolutely.
And do you want to get into some of these Easter eggs since
Yeah.
we're kind of dancing around them?
Yeah. Let's go.
Okay. Um, so the first one that and these are the ones that I noticed. I know there's probably more. Um, the Mythosaur sigil that is kind of above where the covert is now on this ring planet or this ring world, um, and you could see that kind of when he was entering there. Um, I thought that was pretty cool too, and just
Yeah, for
seeing
sure.
that
Yeah,
sigil and everything.
yeah,
Um, so we got that up on the screen there. And also another one was just the whole Great Purge, Night of a Thousand Tears, that was happening on Mandalore, and seeing the Imperial droids
yeah. The
that
security
were
droids. Yeah.
the security droids that looked very much like K2SO
Mm-hmm.
and everything. So that was a fun Easter egg also. Um, and then just getting our first live action look at Sundari, which
And
is
last live
the
action look
and
by
last maybe live action, yeah,
possibly,
live
possibly.
action look.
Yeah.
The capital of Mandalore and
Right.
everything. I don't know. Look in one of the shots that we could see a moon. I'm not sure if that was. It didn't look. I don't know if it was Concordia or not. Um,
I
it
don't
it
know.
didn't look. I don't. It didn't look how I remember it looking, and like Rebels and stuff, or Clone Wars, um, but that was interesting too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then the present that and so
I
first of
actually
all I was
didn't
kind of
notice this. That's cool. I didn't notice this.
yeah, it's pretty cool. So Mando, the armorer, said, we don't use Beskar as a weapon.
Question.
um
Um, Adam Bray, who's an author on Twitter, brought this up. She made those whistling bird things
that's true.
in season 1,
Yeah,
and I don't know what the
that's a good
distinction
point.
is there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I was wondering
um
about that as soon as I heard it, and I couldn't place anything, so I was like, well, maybe it's true. But then when he said that on Twitter, I was like, oh yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
yeah, yeah. So I was kind of sad to see that Beskar spear
I was
get
too. I thought that
melted
was
down.
cool.
um but
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 with
we end up getting
the
maybe
dark
some
saber,
chain.
maybe he doesn't need it. I don't know.
Right. Um, I'm wondering if they were making chainmail for Grogu.
It looked like
Um,
it.
in the way you see the way he holds it in his hand, and it kind of the movement it has to it seems like it could be
I
that,
thought
but
it was
it
chainmail, but then it seems like we don't really know what it is. But it looked like chainmail to me.
right. At first, I thought maybe it
It's
was just like
mithril.
a Mithril, yeah. Lord of the Rings reference. But if at first I thought it was maybe just like a Beskar ball because he loved that ball so much. Um, but then I realized no, that's probably not what it is.
You can
And
use it to throw at people, force
right,
throw it at them.
force throw it through people. But um,
Through people.
anyway, so what I'm getting to is the wrappings that it's in. When you look at it in a certain scene, and you can see it if you're watching on YouTube
Yeah,
here, is that it actually looks like Grogu's head,
I didn't
the way
notice
it's
that at
wrapped up
first.
and everything. Yeah,
That's a cool way to tie it. I didn't notice that.
yeah. Another Easter egg is we talked about the BD droid that appears here, and that's a great
My
image of
favorite
the
droid.
droid. And yeah, it's an awesome droid,
I
a
love BD.
BD-1 from Jedi
Fallen
Fallen
Order.
Order. I
Yeah,
love that droid.
absolutely love him.
It was just fantastic. So seeing it again here was great. I mean, there
Hmm.
were references you had prequel references, you had
Everything.
original trilogy references, you video game, it was just
Clone
a
Wars references. You know, we
Clone
didn't
Wars.
mention
Yeah.
this, but that shield, pre-Vizsla shield, past Vizsla shield pops up. The one
Mm-hmm.
Sabine
Mm-hmm.
uses it in Rebels.
Yeah, in Rebels. Yeah. So this was, in my opinion, like fan service and Easter
Yeah,
eggs done absolutely right. Um,
yeah,
So I loved all that. And we also got what I think is our first live action look at a Womp Rat
could be.
in when Mando was flying the starfighter through um uh what I don't know if it's Beggar's Canyon or
Yeah,
what it is, but
that whole track has a name. I forget what the name is, but
yeah. So that was cool seeing a Womp Rat. I pretty much freaked out when I saw that. I was like always wanting to see one of those for some reason. um
and
and
did
then
it
and
live
then
up to
the
your expectations?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's great. That's what they used to practice against Luke and his gang. Um, And then we had the N1 starfighter from the Phantom Menace, the type of ship that Anakin actually piloted um, in the Phantom Menace, which I thought was a really nice touch, but with some modifications.
Yeah, no droid pit.
Very cool. Yeah.
I was hoping for a little bit that Mando was going to kind of get over that, and that BD would be his. He
Yeah,
would
maybe
take
he would
BD
get
with him.
a
Yeah.
droid or something. Yeah. Um, so that was really cool. There's also this like long pole that shows up that they are calling a cryogenic density combustion booster. But it looked just like the thing that Han and Leia were trying to use to
Uh-huh.
brace the trash compactor doors from closing in on them in A New Hope. So I thought that was pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Um, I mentioned the Phantom Menace pod race route,
Right. Right.
in Mando kind of going through that area, which was cool. And then Pelimato asks him after he tests it out and everything, tests the ship out and everything, like, how was it and everything, and he says one word,
Wizard.
wizard.
Yeah.
um, which Anakin's buddy from the Phantom Menace, what was his name again? Do you remember?
Kit.
He's like, that
No, it
was
wasn't
Wizard
Kit. It
Annie
or
or something like that. Yeah. Kidster,
something
something
like
like
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just, man, this episode was just packed of Easter egg stuff, other stuff you guys probably even saw that maybe we didn't. Adam, did you have anything else you wanted to mention with Easter eggs or references?
Yeah. There were some interesting things there with Jawas. I wouldn't really call
Mm-hmm.
this Easter eggs. This is kind of lower stuff, but I
Yeah.
guess we know they're furry now.
Right. Yeah, because apparently Pelimato dated one.
I could have
We
maybe
got
done
up
without.
close and personal.
I could have maybe
Yeah.
done without that little tidbit, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that was a little weird. But
Little
hey,
TMI.
uh,
Mhm.
got a mention of a Fathier.
Yeah, I kind of skipped that one on purpose, but
Any reason?
yeah, I just wasn't really a fan of those things. I mean,
Fair enough.
they came from my least favorite whole scene and sequence from The Last Jedi, so
Yeah, fair enough.
um, yeah, but I did notice that too.
Uh, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but Armor kind of mentioned legends, and I don't know if
Yeah,
you picked up on that, but they're
yeah,
talking about
mm-hmm,
the Mythosaur, and she
mm-hmm.
said sadly it only exists in legends,
And Legends, yeah,
which I don't know if that's meant to say it exists in like the EU stuff, which would be kind of interesting.
right,
Um,
right,
they did that before once with Ahsoka, right?
mm-hmm,
Mentioning legends and maybe kind of a double meaning sort of way. So I
yeah,
thought that was
yeah,
interesting, but yeah, that's those were some of the ones that I picked up on.
yeah. So lots of great stuff if you're a big Star Wars
I
fan,
have
and
noticed that the definition for Easter egg has changed drastically.
yeah,
It can basically be anything
yeah.
now. So
It can be anything, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah, I saw some people listing like this episode referencing the Mandalorian being an Easter egg, but I'm like, I don't know if that's an
yeah.
Easter egg or not.
No,
Um,
yeah, I don't think
like
so.
Mando's like line of I can bring you in warm or I can bring you in cold or whatever,
Right,
like
right,
calling
right.
that an Easter egg. I don't really think that's an Easter egg. I just think it's him using the line again, but
Yeah.
um, maybe if you're reaching, I guess. But plenty of stuff to dig into with this episode, and it's definitely worthy of watching over and over again. Adam, if you were to give this episode a score, what would it be?
9.5.
I'm right there with you, man.
Wasn't quite perfect.
I'm
It was
almost,
great, but it was
I'm
nine and
almost
a
at, a,
half.
I'm almost at a 10, but it's a
Yeah.
9.5 for me too. Um, it really just got me really excited again about this universe, and that's kind of what I've been waiting for since Mando season 2 ended.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
so predictions going into the next episode. Are we gonna are we
This
gonna
is
see
so
Mando
weird.
again? Are we gonna
Yeah, we're
like
gonna see Mando again, but I
is
think we're gonna see Grogu because he mentions he has to see Grogu first before he
right?
can help anybody. So
And I was wondering, like, are they gonna shift the focus back to Boba Fett, and Mando goes and visits Grogu off screen, so we're still like teased with that.
I'll go
And
back to what I said
and
last
we see
week.
Boba Fett get more muscle or something.
I'll go back to what we said last week. If they tease that and don't follow through on it, that's their own fault for
Yeah,
whatever, whatever fan lash back they
repercussions.
get. Yeah. Um, I think that we would. I think that we'll get a look at Grogu this coming
Hmm.
week, but I think it's only going to be like 5 minutes. I don't.
Right.
I mean, Boba has to appear in this episode, right?
You would think.
um, but I mean, I feel like when he said that, you have to follow through on it, and if he's going to help, then he can't do it until he does what he says. So,
Yeah,
I don't know why
that's
he
true.
has to do that first, but you know, here we are.
He's compelled.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I really want to see Grogu again. I want to. I want to see Luke training him. Um. I hope
Which
that
is
if Luke
interesting.
is in
So I
it,
mean, that's interesting too, because if Luke's in it, Mando's having some trouble wielding a lightsaber.
there it is.
Right?
Exactly. Is Mando gonna get some Luke training here? On the use of that thing.
If he does,
Yeah.
the CG is going to be a lot better than it was last
It's
time.
gotta be. It's gotta be deep fake. It's gotta be deep fake. Um. But yeah, and another thing, the first thing I thought when he was struggling with that dark saber, I was like, he needs Sabine Wren to train him. That was my first wish
Yeah,
and hope.
yeah.
Um, but then we saw at the end of the episode that he needs to go give this present to
Okay, so
Grogu.
so so
So
let's flush this out a little bit. If he goes and gives
mhm,
his present to Grogu, and if he gets some training from Luke, how long does that take, screen
right.
time wise?
I mean, you got to think that's at least half the episode. you know.
So, yeah, I mean I agree.
Hmm.
If that's where that's going, then you have the sixth and next to last episode spending half of its time away from its main character.
Yeah, and we have This is a Dave
A
Filoni
Dave
episode.
Filoni episode, yeah.
Um, so
And he
this
kind
has
of
got
likes to
to,
direct those episodes where characters like Ahsoka show up. So I mean,
yeah,
I'm not saying that
or
Ahsoka's going to show up, but I'm saying he likes to
but
direct those episodes.
yeah, like could we see Sabine? I don't know, and how it would make sense for her to
Maybe, I don't know.
show up,
Yeah.
but um,
So
not
maybe this
yet,
episode
but
kind of flashes back and forth between the two of them. Maybe it
maybe,
shares
maybe.
some screen time.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I really don't know what to expect, but
maybe while Boba's getting some help, with some characters that maybe Dave Filoni might want to direct.
hmm
Maybe Mando's off getting giving his gift and training. So
getting a little
it
bit of
could be,
training maybe with
yeah.
that dark saber. Um, and is Boba Fett going to get some more muscle, and who's that going to be? Are we going to see other bounty hunters? Are we gonna see
I've heard
Cad Bane?
I've
Are
heard
we
Cad
gonna
Bane would be
are we gonna
interesting.
see Bosk? Are we gonna um you know
Hmm.
characters like that? And are we gonna get
There's still that weird Han Solo thing hanging around too. I don't know that it fits.
yeah, yeah.
I really don't know that it fits, but
What
there's
if wait a second. I
what?
don't know if this adds up timeline wise, but let me blow your mind for a second, and this would blow everybody's mind. What if when Mando goes to visit Grogu, Luke's training him, Han happens to pay a visit, has Ben Solo with him, and I don't
How
know,
old
I
would
don't
Ben
know.
be at this point though? Ben would be really young.
Mhm. He would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. But that
Uh,
would blow my mind. That would blow my mind.
I forget exactly when he was born, but he was born because this is 5 years after Jedi.
Mhm.
Um, he was born actually 1 year after Jedi,
Okay. So it's
so he'd be
possible.
like 4.
4, yeah. Mhm. So maybe that's how, if the rumors are true
Well,
about
you
Han
remember
Solo, then maybe that's how
Trying to think here. You remember back when we got some casting rumors? I think this was about Obi-Wan, though, about a young kid being cast.
Yes.
But they were trying to maybe connect that to Luke and Leia.
It could be a young Luke, yeah, or young Leia, yeah.
But what if it's Ben?
Yeah, you never know. So, and I don't want to like, I'm just speculating. I'm just throwing these
Yeah,
ideas out there.
I
I'm
know.
not getting my hopes up for this stuff to happen.
No, I honestly,
You know,
I don't think that Han Solo
but
shows up. I don't know how it makes sense.
right.
Except for the Luke thing. I mean, he's not a bounty hunter. He's not really hired muscle at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how that would work.
Yeah.
But so I personally don't think he shows up at all. But never know.
We'll see. We'll see. And I'm curious still if Crimson Dawn is going to have any involvement with these syndicates at all by the end. So,
I don't know. I'm kind of leaning, since we only have 2 episodes left. I'm kind of thinking it's Pikes, mainly Pikes. So
yeah.
but you never know.
Hey, I don't know. I don't know about you.
I didn't
but
think that we would get a Grogu appearance either, and apparently we're gonna get that. So maybe we'll get a Crimson Dawn. I don't know.
And I still feel like, even though I really want to see Grogu, I still feel like if we do, it's almost too soon. But at the same time, I want it. So if they give it to me, then that's fine.
No, I want it. I'm fine with it. It's just like, this is all the wrong show, you know.
Yeah.
So,
but hey, I'm excited about the next episode and to see what if any of our predictions come true and to see where they go with the story. So that wraps it up for our Mando season 2.5, Boba Fett episode 5, Return of Mandalorian.
5.
Yeah.